Hi, I'm Jake, and today we're going to be talking about my top 3 Death Guard play companies and how I've been choosing each of them for 9th edition competitive play. Thank you so much for tuning back in. If it's your first time here, what I focus on is sharing any and all aspects of mainly competitive Warhammer 40k right now that I found to be helpful and commonly asked. All right, so you've either transitioned from the old codex, discovered the wonderful world of 40k Nurgle for the first time, or have simply been stuck on which play company is the best. Simply put, there's absolutely no right answer to this, so please don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. Just like how I've mentioned several times in previous videos, I'm personally not a fan of assigning tier ratings on specific units, as there are really far too many variables on what can make something good or bad. Here's a good example, in case I've offended you. Some say combi bolters on Blightlord Terminators are pure trash. Okay, fair. But once you spend 1 CP to make them plague weapons and another CP to extend the range all the way up to 30 inches, that doesn't sound so bad, does it? Not to mention if you have a Lord nearby for rerolls and maybe even a Tallyman to give your Termies +1 to hit until your next command phase. Okay, fine, maybe Blightlords aren't the best example because they're freaking MVPs, but hopefully you get my point. Now, play companies were an amazing and interesting mechanic added to Death Guard in their new 9th edition codex, which added a ton of flavor into how lists are built and how your army functions. Let's assume you already know what play companies are in general, and if not, please check out page 40 of the 9th edition Death Guard codex. I can assure you, you are most certainly not alone when you're scratching your head on getting stuck on selection anxiety, because it's a tough-ass choice. I've personally tried every single one, some more than others, but what is clear is that each one really does have their place and is definitely the first place you want to start in building your army list, because it's going to dictate the flow of not only your army, but also how it's going to link up with your personal playstyle. I do want to say the most important thing to always consider while selecting one for yourself is that you really don't need to make use of every single play company benefit. I've personally taken the Inexorable company several times, only to gain access to the -2 to charge stratagem. What I'm saying is, just because you can take the specific Warlord traits or relics, doesn't mean at all that you should be using them when there's so many options for Warlord traits and relics in our codex. So what we're going to be doing today is I'm only going to be highlighting my favorite 3 play companies, which I've had the most success with in competitive match play. First up are the Harbingers. Man, I had so much fun running this one. I have so much fun running it currently as well. The Wrathful Dead Strat, which costs 1 CP, and what that does for you is allows you to reroll all of your hits for a Poxwalker unit. Naturally, you pair this with the Mortal Wound strat, and you're going to be dishing out a healthy amount of mortal wounds. I can tell you this much, players have definitely been hit by this combo enough times by now that most opponents will know how much of a threat Poxwalkers can be in your army, especially once you go over your list saying, I'm Harbingers. Do just be careful of that and always be mindful that this is a thing. It's going to put a target on your Poxwalker's back, which isn't always necessarily a bad thing, because sometimes if you have enough of the Poxwalkers and they're going to target those, the rest of your army might be ignored for the most part, while your opponent stresses about getting touched and tickled by your zombies. The Shamble Rot's Warlord trait isn't too bad, and it is what Typhus would take if he were included in your army. What that does is at the start of your opponent's movement phase, roll a d6, -1 if it's a character, and on a 4-up, enemy units that are within contagion range of this Warlord trait suffers 1 mortal wound, or d3 on a 6-up. Another reason this is great on Typhus, especially since you're probably wanting him to buff the strength of your Poxwalker attacks, is that Typhus, just like the Lord of Contagion, innately extends his contagion range by 3 inches. Very nice. Regardless, it's a situational trait to take, and in my opinion, not as strong as taking Hulking Physique or Rotten Constitution on Lord characters, outside of Typhus, of course, because he can't take those. For the Relic, you get access to infected remains. What that does, or what this does, is once per battle, at the end of your movement phase, you contaminate an objective within 3 inches of the bearer to give it contagion abilities that the bearer has. I personally never found a reason to pay the Relic premium for this one, but hey, if it speaks to you and it matches your playstyle, then go for it. In summary, Harbingers are great when your list is built around a minimum of 60 Poxwalkers, and having Typhus or even 80 or plus Poxwalkers only makes Harbingers that much better. Moving on to the Inexorable. Yes, the Inexorable. I must have ran this one at least probably over 20 times or so by now out of the 40-ish Death Guard games I've played since the Codex drop, but I can admit I kind of fell into a trap earlier on, and I'll tell you why shortly. Alright, so the stratagem for the Inexorable is Ferric Miasma, which costs you 1 CP, and you use it in your opponent's charge phase, and any units attempting to declare a charge on your declared Inexorable unit suffer a -2 to their charge rolls, to a minimum of 1, of course. Just think about that for a second. This can absolutely make the difference, and it has for me, the difference of winning or losing an entire game. If you pop it off at crucial points of the game where your opponent is trying to make a play to score or deny your scoring. This strat is the perfect example of it being okay to take a play company just for the stratagem access. The Ferric Blight Warlord trait was admittedly the trap I fell into for a while. So this is what part I'm explaining. Constantly having felt the pressure to try and get to my opponent, or get my opponent within my character's contagion range, or even having to spend 2 CP to flash Outbreak onto a suicide unit. What you should be hearing from that is, firstly, just by taking this trait, somewhat forced a nonsensical playstyle to me, just because I had access to something that I really wanted to use and make effective, and secondly, trying to take unnecessary risks, like throwing out a drone or whatever kind of suicide unit, just to take use of it and spending more CP. What happens is, so let me explain back up a little bit. While an enemy unit is within contagion of a range of this Lord's contagion range, each time an attack made by a friendly Inexorable army, or model, which is basically the rest of your army, you improve the AP by 1. On paper, doesn't sound incredible. Bolters all being -1 AP, Mortars even being -3 AP, and even Contemptors with Volkites would all be at -1 AP. Of course, that sounds amazing, but again, in practice, getting it to actually happen is a completely different story. You'll just need to proceed with caution and be highly patient if you want to consider this strategy overall. I want to make it clear, the trait is in fact very awesome and really cranks the output of the rest of your army's shooting and even melee once you get close enough and in. I just simply feel like the cost or risk factor is a bit high, which is why I started exploring other options. The Leech Spore Casket Relic is pretty cool too. Each time an enemy model is destroyed by a result of a melee attack, you select a friendly Inexorable vehicle that's within 18 inches of the bearer. That vehicle will regain 1 lost wound for a maximum of 3 per turn. This can be really effective if you're running up a beat stick character, like let's say a Normal Demon Prince who can keep up with the bloat drones for support, and also to screen him. You just keep killing things with the Demon Prince and bring back some wounds on your drones or even melee Contemptors, Hellbrutes, whatever kind of vehicle you want to run up the board. It is a bit one-dimensional, as you can already figure out, because it indicates destroying models only in the melee phase, in the fight phase, but can be pretty effective still overall. I could see it working. In summary, the Inexorable is great for helping you move block opponents in your pretty much any kind of built army, and of course it's going to buff your volume of shots. Mainly the move blocking though. Okay, so I've had a lot of success with the first 2 we talked about today. Equally, I would say. Equally between Harbingers and the Inexorable. But now it's time for my newly found favorite, my current favorite, the Ferryman! It took a lot of game reps to truly appreciate what the On-Droning Wings strat can do for Death Guard armies. For 1 CP, you use this strat in your command phase and select 1 Ferryman voted Varian models from your army, then select one of that model's aura abilities. Until the start of your next command phase, you add 6 inches to the range of that model's selected aura to a maximum of 12 inches. I'm sure you already know, but fetid Varian models are the Tallyman, Foul Blightspawn, Biologist Putrefier, and the Plague Surgeon. For each of those elite characters, they already provide a tremendous amount of force there's the Noxious Blightbringer too, but nobody likes them. Sorry if you do. So being able to use this strat on already powerful aura abilities is just pure insanity. How I've been using this is mostly on extending my Foul Blight Spawns aura to create a 12-inch of come at me and die zone. Not to mention his absurdly strong Flamer with a reroll pathogen, making him strength 8, allows him to be played hyper aggressively, especially if you have Death Shrouds bodyguarding him the whole time. Just put him up front, 12 inches. Don't come here, or come here. It'll be fun. The Droning Warlord trait's pretty juicy too. While an enemy unit is within contagion range of your unit at the start of your opponent's movement phase, you have that enemy's unit move characteristic. This one's already great on Morty, because he comes with it. Just as much can be disruptive on an army led by, let's say, a Lord of Contagion. The Ferryman Scythe Relic is also pretty good if you're running something buff, like a Lord of Contagion, and want to replace its Man Reaper. The difference, however, is the sweeping profile will yield 3 times the amount of swings instead of 2, so that's a lot. That's a lot more attacks. I would love this one actually a lot more if I could take it on like a Death Shroud champion, but the rules say no. Regardless, the stratagem alone has quickly made the Ferryman my current favorite play company for most games and even for my various list styles. It's just highly flexible, and as you can see, depending on which photo variant character you're liking or taking and hinging your strategy on, will easily multiply that even further. So there you have it, my top 3 play company choices for now, because who knows what will change in the future. If you have a suggestion on what content you'd like me to cover next, please feel free to drop me a line in the comments below. I read all the comments. I try to reply to all the comments. I actually do reply to all the comments. Well, that's it for today, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in. And if you found this video to be helpful and informative by any measure and would like to see more content like this, please do say subscribe and join in on the conversation. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.